All right, hi, it's David Heatley here from Cycling Inform. Now I've got Paul from Sierra Sports on the line. Now Paul runs amazing tours in Europe, and we actually had the great fortune of going over to do the Spring Classics with him last year and had the best time. So look, I wanted to have a bit of a chat to Paul about some of the options around what you can do in Europe and some tips and stuff. So look, we'll kick it off, Paul. Let's talk about some of the different options, ride options that are available in Europe for people to start thinking about, putting together their bucket list.
Sure, mate. Yeah, and thanks for the opportunity to have a chat, David. Yeah, well, what we've found, I guess, with over the 6 years doing this is that there's a wide variety of type of clients. So there's the type of client who might be just wanting to go off and do it by themselves or with a partner or somebody else who's looking for a guided option, and all options are great there. So basically, what you might find is that there's all sorts of accommodation
Yeah.
once you get to Europe. People who are looking just for a hostel and they just want to go out and ride every day, and then all the way through to your agriturismos in Italy, your casa rurals in Spain, your chalets in France. So the options up to 5-star luxury. So really, there's from the budget option all the way through to the luxury. So what we've found is we get clients of all sorts, and we're able to tailor different packages together for them based on their requirements on where they want to, on what level of cycling and accommodation they're looking for.
It's fantastic. So what are some of the really, the hot spots in Europe that cyclists are just like, want to get ticked off? I know there's some pretty good
Yeah.
climbs and stuff, but you've been running tours in Europe. What are some of the areas that you really like taking tours
Well,
through?
for a really good base, and coming in is Grenoble in France. So
Yep.
it's sort of like the gateway to the French Alps, and really from Lyon Airport or Paris Airport, fast train connections. And then once you get to Grenoble, you've got all those Epica, and you've got Alpe d'Huez at your doorstep, Galibier, Telegraph. You've got Grand Croix de la Fer. So for me, Grenoble as a
Mm.
centre is just incredible. You can base yourself there for a week and ride a different climb or in a different configuration and have a fantastic experience. Venice,
Mm.
surprisingly, is also a really good spot to fly in and set yourself up, because you've got Prosecco wine region, which is just undulating, really interesting ins and outs, small villages type cycling, and then you're only, in the foothills of the Dolomites, and then all of a sudden this different terrain opens up again,
Yeah.
and so all close. And then for me, I'm a little bit biased because now I'm living down in southern Spain, but the Sierra Nevada mountains are probably not talked about so much, because back when majority of our clients being from Australia or New Zealand, they hear about the Tour de France, the Giro, but the Sierra Nevada in La Vuelta history, there's climbs up to 3,000 meters on road bikes. So they put the Stelvio and climbs like that to shame as well. So
Wow.
three really good areas, and that's Granada
Yeah.
in southern, and so probably some of our favourite spots there.
Yeah, fantastic. I know when we went over to Italy, we actually followed the Giro and they finished in Milan, and it was like, oh, Milan was really close to
Yeah,
a lot of the, access to a lot of the Alpine, the Alpine region,
correct.
and yeah. So
That's really useful. Milan is another one. You've hit the head there. You can get closer to Lake Como and also the
yeah,
Stelvio.
yeah, yeah,
The Stelvio is not part of the Dolomites as such, but it's right there near Milan.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like there are the Dolomites. We had some fantastic riding around that area. We actually went over to Italy and we did the Nova Colli Gran Fondo, which is out of Cirenetico, and it was an
Yeah.
also awesome Gran Fondo. It's Marco Pantini or Pantani. I always get that wrong, but that was where he used to train, and it was just like riding in the Tour de France. You're riding through these small villages and through the Alps and stuff, and
Yeah.
it was just a fantastic
And
experience.
that's the great thing about the Nova Colli, because it is in the middle of May every
Mm.
year. It often tacks in with a Giro experience. So
Yeah, yeah. So that was a great ride. Now we came over and we did the classics with you, and we got to ride Paris-Roubaix and Flanders, but we also got to ride a lot around Belgium, and also we rode through a little bit of France and stuff. It was a great experience. So for the spring classics, would those be the two sort of hotspots that you'd recommend for earlier on in the season?
Yeah, when you're looking at the European spring and getting the season started, obviously that's where the professionals are. So,
Yeah.
excuse me. So there's a lot of atmosphere, if you want to put it there. There's women's teams everywhere. There's the men's teams. There's
Mm,
just races midweek, weekends, right from now actually,
mm,
being early March all the way through to the end of April. So as you would have seen, the Flanders region there in western Belgium, anywhere through to Roubaix, which is only an hour's drive away in
mm.
France. So that region is amazing. So there, though, it's a different type of cyclist, as you would have
Yeah.
seen. It's the cobbles and the pavé. You got to be up for it. It's not the teeth are shattering, the arms are shaking.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
feel the pressure through the bottom of your feet. You've just got to really hold on and push through the sectors, and then hope for a bit of a break and regroup again. But it's great fun. It's an amazing
Oh,
experience.
yeah, yeah,
But it's
yeah.
just not your typical type of cycling that
This is
maybe road cyclists are used to.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Well, look, I always wanted to ride the Paris-Roubaix. Never wanted to race it, and obviously,
No,
last year I got the opportunity to do that. And surprisingly enough, Jodie was awesome on the cobbles through France. I think she took out
yeah,
about 10 minutes or something. No, it was more than
yeah,
that. Jodie's how long? How much? How many? 15. She, in the Paris-Roubaix Gran Fondo. Well, they don't call it. They call it a sportif in France. She took
40.
out, yeah, took out 15 minutes, and it was all done through the cobbled sections. She was just absolutely
Well,
flying through there.
what happens when I noticed when we were cycling with Jodie is that she's got very good bike handling skills.
Mm, mm,
So she wasn't, or maybe also from criterium racing and
yeah,
different things, she wasn't afraid to be up close with people.
yeah, yeah.
And then managing through the cobbles and pavé, which are tight and tricky, you've got to have your wits about you a little bit. And she seemed to just love that aspect of it
Yeah.
and just got through the sectors really
Oh,
well.
just really super well. And of course, when we were in Belgium, it was a little bit different story because we were on the bergs, the steep,
Mm.
sharp climbs and stuff like that. And that's where I sort of came into my own there. I know Jodie wasn't as good, but getting onto the bergs and stuff was just certainly amazing. And this classic. Now I can't remember all of them, but run me through some of
Yeah.
the bergs that we did in the classics.
Well, obviously the really famous ones are Koppenberg,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
you go up through that very narrow cutting,
yes,
and
yep,
it's always damp and wet there, no
yep.
matter what. And then you've got the Paderberg in the open
Mm,
fields where you've seen
mm.
many Cancerala and even
Oh, yeah,
Sagan attack the
yep,
win.
yep.
And then the Quaremont also is a very
Quarmont,
typical.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, we had it.
So we did them all.
We did them
Yeah.
all. I know it was great. We had a great time over there. So now, tell me, tips for preparing for tours. Obviously preparation, training, and what to bring and those sort of things. So just run through some of the things people should think about when they want to go and do a
Yeah.
European trip.
I guess the first thing these days is that all the major international airlines are really giving good luggage allowances. So if you are wanting to travel with your bike these days, it's not uncommon to have 30 or 32 kilograms of travel allowance. So
Yeah,
obviously without things we can hire bikes, but people who want to ride their own bike, it's really become a lot easier to get your own gear across to Europe,
yeah,
and they look after it quite well. So that's obviously a bonus. And then another thing that we often find is people, well, they think they're coming over for the European summer, and well, they'll bring just their summer gear, but you really every tour I go on, I've got a piece of clothing for all conditions, whether it's winter, summer, or spring gear,
mm, mm,
because even if it is 30 degrees down below, if we're up at
mm,
2,500 on the Stelvio, it could be feeling like 5 or 10 degrees up there, and if the wind picks up, it's a
yeah,
really icy descent. So what I really recommend is that people, I mean, you can always pick up gear in Europe, but
mm,
if you've got gear that you like to wear,
mm,
bring a bit of all conditions. That always helps. And I guess one thing, people always put so much focus on the climbs and doing so much training and putting in the effort.
mm.
And that's great, and it's always makes the trip a lot more enjoyable. But sometimes on these trips, the descents are 30, 25 kilometers long.
Yeah, yeah,
And so really worthwhile thing to make sure you practice and train for the descents and really work on that. So concentration's obviously a huge key there.
mm,
and just practicing descents, because we see that a lot, that people maybe used to doing 10 to 15k descents,
Right.
and halfway down they're getting sore hands. They're not. They need to learn how to ease off the brakes, corner, and so that's always a thing that we find that people could probably do a bit more work on.
Fantastic.
And yeah, probably the main things are that. A lot of people who have helped with their own self-guided trips, they also find that, we're able to put them in contact with hire vehicle places, and even just if they're not wanting to do a guided tour, they go off and do their own thing. Getting bikes into hire vehicles and moving around these days, it's really quite easy through Europe.
Yeah, yeah. I know one of the things that we found really fascinating was that when we went over to Italy, there were bike hotels. There were hotels specifically set up for cyclists. And certainly in Cyrenaica, when we were doing Nova Colli Gran Fondo, we stayed at one of those bike hotels, and they actually had somebody that went out and took riders out on guided toured rides as part of the service. And downstairs they had a storage area for the bikes and a bike cleaning bay area and those sort of things. So I assume
Italy does.
yeah.
Italy's leap years ahead of other countries in Europe for that, because they've found that there's a market there, and people might just come through for a day or two, and they don't necessarily want to do a 7 or 8 night or 10 night tour. They want to ride a couple of days and then move on, and they can hire a bike there. They can have an easy, moderate, or hard day with different guides at the hotel, take them to different rides. And often when people come on our trips, they've gone to Lake Garda bike hotel first for 2 or 3 days just to get over the jet lag and have a ride or two, and then we've gone and picked them up from there and continued into the Dolomites or whatever like that. So Italy's great for bike hotels. Spain's starting to get better. There's a website called bikefriendly.com which allows you to go in and look through Spain and see where hotels are doing this sort of services as well.
Fantastic.
France has some chalets in the Alps and the Pyrenees that are getting the idea, but they don't really have any guides at this point. You maybe link up with a bike shop nearby or something like that, but that's a really positive thing that Italy, they're just, and you see it at the Tour Down Under. They actually bring some of their team from Lake Garda out and they do rides because they realise that the Australians, love that sort of style of holiday as well.
Yeah, fantastic. I know one of the great things that I found with the bike hotels is that you get back and they do your laundry for you. And also they'd have food. They'd have lunch prepared and you could come in and just have some pasta or something, and it was all there laid out in sort of a buffet meal. So, it was fantastic service. It was awesome. So, it's great, and I'm sure that it'll become more and more popular throughout the rest of the other European countries. So, something to really look forward to.
Yeah, they are. They're, like I said, Spain and stuff are looking at that as a model.
Yeah.
It is a good thing.
Yeah, fantastic.
Maybe the one thing about that is that often if you stay in that one hotel, depending on the region, you might be a little bit limited to doubling up on some of the rides. But that's why if they stay for 2 or 3 nights in a place like that, they really explore that region really well, and then they can look through the network of other affiliated hotels and move across somewhere else and then experience a new region as well. That's another way of doing it.
Fantastic. Oh, good. All right, so now we talked about that, and then just 3 of your favourite climbs. What are the 3 of your most favourite climbs in Europe?
This is a great question, because there's obviously the ones that when you're watching all the pro races and you're sitting in the middle of the night back in the southern hemisphere, and you're always looking at Tourmalet. You're always watching Alpe d'Huez and probably Stelvio. I mean, they're the 3 ones that people are watching, and I'm not going to lie, they're fantastic to ride. They are. But also, when you're in this sort of tour guiding business, you're also looking for climbs of equal, challenge or difficulty, but just a little bit more obscure as well, and take you off the beaten track. So I mean, if people are interested, they could send you an email. I could give some more information later. But one is a climb in Slovenia.
Okay.
It's actually called Paso Versic, and it's just near the Austrian-Slovenian border and not too far from Italy as well, actually. And it's actually a cobbled climb.
Wow.
On all the switchbacks, they cobble it for the wet weather in the winter, the tough conditions. And it's just an amazing. It was built by the Russian prisoners of war,
Okay.
and it's got that sort of historical aspect to it as well. But it's just a pristine environment, and this cobbled switchbacks makes it really interesting as well. Another one that we really love is, and I stumbled across this when I was actually hiking in Norway many years ago, and I had to go back later with my bike a couple of years later. It's called Trollstigen, and it's near the UNESCO Geringer Fjord on the west coast of Norway, and it's just another road that just hugs off the edge of the cliff. It's basically the Stelvio of Norway. It's spectacular.
Fantastic.
And another one closer to home, living here in southern Spain in Andalusia, it's called Puerto de las Palomas, and again it's in Cadiz region, which is very, very low traffic. But you're riding up the switchbacks and you're looking down over the turquoise reservoir down below, and you've got these sort of big griffin vultures doing the thermal, circling around, and you're saying, "Don't stop now, I better keep riding."
Or else I'm going to get picked off.
Yeah, you don't want to get picked off by one of the vultures, but no, they're not climbs that, I mean, people will typically have heard of, but when you ride them and you go and actually go off and have a look and study them up, you go, wow, one day I'd love to have a crack on those.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, excellent. All right. Now you obviously run tours. You're an Australian based. You've married or married?
Yeah. Married a Spanish lady.
Spanish lady. So you're now living in Spain, learning the language. So you're pretty you can talk the local.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So obviously it's good, and we're looking forward to coming over and doing your tour in Spain a little bit later on this year. But you're obviously running tours throughout the cycling season. So tell us about some of the tours that you're operating.
Yeah, so basically, you're right. We set up 6 years ago, and it was Australian business then at that point, and we were 6 months in Melbourne, 6 months over here in Spain. But with the growth and everything, the last 2 years, and also a Spanish family now, young family, we've set up 100% here in Spain. We still get back to Australia for the summer here and there. But basically, by being here in Europe, we've got a really long season. So anything from really now, March through till mid-October, we've got designated guided tours, but we're also helping people with things that we're calling self-discovery, so that people might need help with accommodation. They might want some iconic routes designed in GPX files, which we can forward to them. So from basically mid-February to mid-October, we're working full on with clients wanting to ride in Europe. So having that long season and being able to go to races in the spring, being Belgium and France, in May being the Giro. June is in Europe a really big Gran Fondo month, so not so much this year, but we've got plans to roll out, like using June as a bit of a Gran Fondo month in the future. July is always the Tour de France. August we hit the Dolomites, because in May it can be a bit iffy still around the Giro, so we like to ride the Dolomites in summer.
All right, yep.
And then the Vuelta picks up through August, September, and then we usually finish things off with La Roica, which is the vintage Sydney on the white gravel roads and the old steel bikes. So that's a nice way to finish the season usually for us as well.
Yeah, look, I'm absolutely looking forward to doing that event one day. I've got a few retro bikes from the 1980s, my old racing bikes and stuff, that I'm absolutely dying to get over there and do one of those Lorica events. They just sound like a great... What's that?
Yeah. That'd be the perfect bikes to roll out for that event. It's just the expo in itself is worth seeing, because you go in there, and I think we had 7 clients this year for Roika, and the guys walked in and they saw the expo, and they were just, you had to hold them back because they were seeing all these old parts and components that they wanted to take home, but they had no space for them. But it's an amazing expo with, vintage and antique collections as well. I
Wow.
mean, the riding fantastic, but just seeing
Yeah.
the old gear in itself
Yeah.
is a
Awesome.
real buzz.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So, so Paul from Sierra Sports and Tours, what's the best way to contact you, Paul?
Well, yeah, we've got the web page
Yep.
being sierrasportsandtours.com.au, and from there you can see our email
Yeah.
and
Contact us.
send us an email. We call Australia and New Zealand, more so Australia, but we are getting more New Zealand clients.
Yep.
We call daily back home, so
Yeah.
send us an email, ask us, put your number down there, we'll give you a call and go through whatever issues. Like I said, we do
Yep.
predominantly guide, but we're finding that we're helping a lot of people just on general questions as well, and we're more people who cycle in Europe.
Yep.
We think's better, so send us some info and a question and we'll get some info back to you. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I'm at the point in my life, well, both me and Jody, we're young enough to explore Europe and we want to do it on bikes, and we're sort of teeing up our annual holiday, our annual pilgrimage over to Europe, and we absolutely loved hanging out with you and going through the Spring Classics, and we're absolutely looking forward to doing the Volta with you a little bit later on this year. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. But anyway, look, Paul, it's been fantastic hooking up with you, and I really appreciate you taking the time and just giving us a few tips on Europe. And like I mentioned, if anybody's interested in doing stuff in Europe, give Paul a ring and have a chat to him about what he can do for, even if you're doing your own tour sort of thing. He can help you out with accommodation and rides, and help design some of that stuff for you. And if you're interested in a guided tour, which I highly recommend, guided tours are really easy. It's just all the stuff's taken care of. You just rock up with your bike, with some clothing, and Paul just looks after everything else, which is just fantastic. I love that thing.
Usually what we find, people who have maybe got limited time because they're full on at work back home and they just want to get there and have 8 great rides.
Yep.
That's usually when the guided tour, because we've got all the routes planned and everything set to go. But yeah, everybody likes to travel in a different way, so that's why we're willing to adapt and be flexible as well.
Fantastic. Excellent, Paul. Well, look, again, thanks very much. So that's Paul from Sierra Sports and Tours. Give him a contact. Go up on his website, do a Google search for Sierra Sports and Tours, and you'll see his website come up, and give him an email, and he'll give you a ring back, and get those discussions going, and really get out there and enjoy Europe. It's like life is short, it's like you're not going to be putting on, you want to get to the end of your life going, yeah, look, I'm really glad, I had some fantastic rides. So certainly, I hope that's given you some ideas on some of the stuff you can get over to Europe. And Paul, look, I thank you very much again for coming on and having a quick chat to us about it.
No, thanks for the chance to have a chat, David. Appreciate it as well. Cheers, mate.
Fantastic. All right.